So we're going to be fitting some soundproofing, some sound deadening to our doors. Now, we're going to be using Dynamat, which if some of you aren't familiar with Dynamat, it's a really good product. It's self-adhesive sheets. You can buy them pre-cut for Defender in some different sort of iterations. The stuff we're going to use is called the squared Dynamat, and that comes in a square, but it's also got this grid pattern on the front here, which makes it super easy to cut it out and get really nice shapes. And I've done the other side, and oh my god, you would not believe the difference it makes to the doors. So what I'm going to do for you now is I'm just going to show you quickly trimming and fitting the Dynamat on the front door, and then I'm going to do a before and after and just show you the difference in the sound. You will not believe how much difference these things make. So it doesn't just deaden the sound, it also dissipates heat. It's self-adhesive, it is easy to use, but I would recommend wearing gloves because when you cut it, it's got a foil on the outside that is really sharp and it can nick you. So let me grab the camera, switch it around, I'll just quickly show you how we're going to install this and then we'll do the sound check. You could, if you wanted to, go behind this seam. I'm not going to, I'm just going to go up to it. So basically just sit it there in place, or you can tuck it underneath to the front, and you can just see I'm going to go from this seam here. I need to cut across this line here. So you can use scissors, you can use a knife, it doesn't really matter. Nice thing is I've already got a nice straight edge printed onto the sheet. So, and this edge is actually going to be tucked underneath. So although you're never going to see this, it's going to look tidy anyway. So we did toy with the idea of painting the doors first, but there's a possibility that we're not going to paint the inside of the doors, possibility, because they're galvanized. Not quite sure yet, but I know we can paint over this stuff with Raptor, so that's not a problem because obviously Raptor's going on the inside again. Now, because it's so adhesive, you will get air bubbles if you're not careful, so just work it from the middle out like you would, you know, a vinyl wrap if you like, and it just goes under there. Look, there we go. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to do a quick demonstration now. I'm going to knock on both doors just to show you the difference. So this is the door without any. You can hear that. This is the door with the Dynamat. Just massive amount of difference. So, gonna get the back one done. Well, I teased you with the box, now it's time to see the real thing. So, we did think about fitting an Exmoor trim wheel on here, which I really like, and I'll show you one of those after we fitted this one. But in the end, we went for a Momo, and the reason is because they've released a wheel. It's an Indy, it's in their heritage collection, and it's a combination of a black tri-spoke and a wooden rim, and here it is. So this is the Indy heritage wheel, and you can just see it's completely encased in a solid wooden rim. Obviously that goes around the metal part. It's got a slight dish to it. Now they do this in a deeper dish, but because you have to fit a boss to our vehicle, we wanted to go for the least amount of dishing as possible. So originally I did think of fitting a silver spoke wheel with a wooden trim into the vehicle. I wanted to keep it classic, but as time's gone on and we've actually started to put some design choices on the vehicle, like the tan leather straps, the tan leather handle, we've got the tan seats, but also we've complemented that with some of these black panels on the front here, and we may well go for black door cards, I'm not sure, but we've got black rubber mats, and there's a definite mix of tan leather and black, and I think that's encapsulated completely in this steering wheel. So hopefully this is going to tie all the little design details in the vehicle together. So we've got the splines in here, we'll get the old wheel off, and then we'll try and offer this up. Our wheel has come off a few times, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Generally, what you need to do is obviously on the 4-spoke wheel, if you've got a really old Defender, like this one had originally, you would just take the plastic cover off, and then you've got access. This one is a slightly later 300 TDI wheel, so you just pull the centerpiece off there, that just comes off, and then you've just got a nut. Now, I think it's a 22. Yep, 22. Now, should be, which we don't have, there should be a serrated washer in there to stop it coming undone. So that is something we're going to have to get at some point. But at the moment, let's just whip this off. So, again, I have mentioned this a few times, but if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen it, what you do is, obviously, if you want steering lock on, that's fine. You just basically, see, that wasn't tight at all. You just loosen this nut off. Now, don't take it off completely. And the reason for that is we're going to pull our steering wheel off now, and they can very well be seized. So what I'd recommend is squirt some WD-40 all around that spline, let it soak in for about an hour, and then you want to be pulling that wheel off towards you. Now what you don't want is obviously to pull the wheel so hard that suddenly it just comes off and smashes you in the face, and that's why you leave your nut just on the end there to make sure that it doesn't come off completely. And what I also find very useful, just to give it just to break that seal on those splines, is I like to knock it from side to side like this. And you tend to find that that will crack the splines apart, especially that WD, and then just mind your controls there. We should be able to get it. There we go, and that's off. So then take the nut off completely, and we're away. Now, if you look at the back of our existing steering wheel, and this will be the same on all the wheels you take off, your standard Land Rover wheel that is, it's got these two prongs, and they engage on your blue spigot, if you like, surround on your column, and that will cancel your indicators. When you put the new one on, you want to make sure it sits at the top. We'll get our nut on there. That is going to bind really tight, I can tell already, because that has got to be wound on a lot. So let's just gently put that on for now. We've got our rubber boot, which is unnecessarily sporty for our vehicle, and that will glide on and over there. So you've got a little tab on there, you can just see that goes inside the boss. Now, even though we're not running the horn, you need to fit this collar just because it's going to give a better fit. It doesn't really matter where it gets lined up, but you can see it sits in there nicely. It's nice that they give you an Allen key, but to be honest, I'd rather use this. Now all I need to do is tighten it up. Now the problem, we don't have to drive it to see what the problem is here. We're actually hitting our housing with the boss. So I'm going to have to trim that top piece off. So this little lip here, you can see there, that's what's causing the problem, because now, well, to be fair, it still feels a bit stiff, and that's hitting, look. You see there, that's too long. It's actually putting pressure on this housing. I can't move that any further down the column, so we're going to have to try and loosen the wheel and get it off, which is going to be virtually impossible. Okay, that was not pretty. I didn't want to show it to you on camera in case it went horribly wrong, but I had to basically cut that much off, and that's basically because it was too long. Just want to knock that tab down a little bit. There we go, little tip for you. If you're going to be fitting your own, you need to shave off, I'd say about 4mm from that stubby prong. So I just trimmed the front face off of there. Now you can actually see where it's gone shiny here. That's where the original steering wheel was rubbing on it. So it is a design flaw, Land Rover, just so you know. It's not anything to do with the Momo steering wheel. So we'll put that back on. You've got this ring, and that goes inside these plastic pieces like that. That circlip ring goes inside, and then we just literally try and pop it into place. Try and get it lined up first, because it's probably harder to move when it's in. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. Oh, it feels really nice. That just feels so good. So as far as the changes between the original, I've got loads more room under my steering wheel here, between the steering wheel and my legs. So loads of space. It's a smaller wheel, so obviously you're going to require more steering, but it's going to be less twitchy. So when I'm on the motorway, because I haven't got such a big wheel moving about like this, you know, it's going to be probably more solid at speed. And you can see the difference in the wheel there completely. So that's all done. We're going to take it for a spin, see how it drives with the new wheel on it. But I'm going to do one more thing before we do that, and that is to fit our new front seats. Check them out. If you didn't see it before, we actually installed this series frame based on mounting it onto a set of mud stuff seat risers, and that seemed like the easiest way to give us the right seating position. Now, we had hoped to give us some movement on that with you know, a retractable sliding frame at the bottom, but unfortunately they weren't available at the time, so it's gone for a fixed position. We're going to do the same on the passenger side. And I guess normally on a vehicle, on a restoration, I wouldn't do the interior until the outside of the vehicle was painted. But because on a Land Rover, everything's so easy to take in and out, it's literally just a case of minutes to get the seats out when we do paint. So there's no reason why we shouldn't get the full effect now of the interior. So to give you a sneak preview of what we're going to do, all I have to do is just remove this seat here and give you a glimpse of what we're going for. So look at that. So we've got these really nice tan vinyl classic seats. They're fluted. They're from Exmoor trim. They're to match the second row seats. So they do the second row seats as a complete set, and we've got those as well. So there's 3 seats that go in the back, and then we've ordered these independently as a pair, and we've got a little surprise that goes in the middle as well, which I'm sure you can guess what it is, but it looks amazing. So to get the back installed, all we have to do is do the same as when we actually did the fit on this one. So I'll do a link above to the video where we showed you how to actually find and mark the mounting points for these particular brackets, as we did on these seat backs. So all I've got to do is just undo these bolts, get them installed on the new seat back. Yeah, and that's it, and it's in. And then we'll go ahead and do the passenger side. Now, of course, we fitted this support bar like a 109 in our vehicle, which means we don't actually need these stopper pins. There's no need for them at all, because this bar takes all the support, and quite frankly, you know, it's just unnecessary to put holes in seats where you don't need them. So we'll only be fitting the pivot point position on our new seat back. Again, that's going to be really easy. Luckily, when you buy the seats from Exmoor trim now, they come with bolts and also these really nice nylon washers, which are going to definitely help protect the seats from snagging. All right, when you're actually fitting these, it's easier if we just drop this out. So the nylon washer will go between this frame plate and this seat. There we go. That feels good. Now, what I have also noticed is these seats are taller than the military squads that we had in here before, which is nice. Gives us even more support. So as I said before, we don't need them to move around. They can move if they want to, but they have got to get past this knuckle at the moment, and I don't want to ruin them. So really, these are designed just to stay where they are. Sliding this in place. So these are good for the money. You can't really go wrong for the sort of 30, 40 quid that they cost. But there's no support on the sides here. You can see they just give. And if you're a big boy like me, you know, you're squirming around all over the place. However, on these, you have got extra bolster left and right, and it's a much more supportive cushion. So that's going to be super comfy. Right, going to get the other one bolted in. If you're lucky, you should have captive nuts underneath these 4 positions here. That means you haven't got to take everything apart. Unfortunately, one of ours is missing on here, so we're just going to be using nuts and bolts. So you actually get access to the fixing point on the passenger side or the left-hand side. You actually have to get underneath there and find that nut. Now, it looks like there is actually a captive nut on there, but not that one, yeah. So we've got a captive nut on there, which might work. We haven't got one on there. We haven't got one at the back here or at the front. We're going to be mounting everything using the mud seat riser conversion kit. It's really simple. It basically just sits and moves everything back by about 2 inches. And on ours, we're actually going to fit a riv nut for the second position, but I'll go into that in just a moment. Okay, that's loosely in, which is fine. This one should just go straight in, if we're lucky. trouble is they sit on a plate when the nut's underneath, and when you push down on it, the plate tends to bend down, which means that the threads won't take. So to be fair, if you can just get your finger under there and just support it, you've got more chance of it taking correctly anyway. It's in there, but it's not happy. I almost feel like just putting a nut and bolt in there, because these will, yeah, do you know what? So I've moved that out of the way, and again I'm going to use a nut and bolt and a washer. Right, so we've got our mud stuff seat riser bars in place. We've bolted our new frame in place as well to line up with the driver's seat. I've just bolted it in the back, and the reason I've done that is because I'm now going to mark with a centre punch where we're going to be putting our riv nuts to mount the fronts. Right, seat back's in place. Seat base, look at that. So good. Now, I don't know if it was deliberate, but I've managed to get the nice little Exmoor trim tabs on the inside, which is great. So, now we need to look at our centre console. We have got ourselves a matching cubby box. How good does that look? I mean, it just looks brilliant. I'm hoping we get some feet. We might not. We do. Now we're going to have to bolt this down really nice and tight, so I'm not worried about giving myself some bigger holes, just to make sure that we can get everything in nice and straight. So you don't get riv nuts in the set, you only get the bolts and washers and things, so you'd have to get these yourself and set them in. But trust me, it makes the job a lot easier. Take our sticky pads off, so you can still remove this because these are actually Velcro. And what you'll see, what I've done is I've actually lined the front of that cubby box up with the front of the seat base because it sits forward. So visually, you know, it looks lined up how it should be. So I think the interior's really coming on now. I mean, I don't even mind this support bar anymore. I think it actually looks really quite classy. You can see what I mean about the whole black and tan combo. I wasn't aware that these didn't come fully trimmed, so part of me is a little bit disappointed. I need to check to see what the second row seats are. If they're fully trimmed, I think we're going to have to go back and get these trimmed, get the backs trimmed, because it just doesn't look as nice as it could. But if they're all black, I think it will look really cool. So I've got the seats here, I'm going to check those now. But really pleased, the cabin is just really coming on. Everything we add to the vehicle makes it look a little bit more refined, a little bit smarter, and it's just making me want to paint it more and more. So that is probably going to happen sooner than I expected. So guys, massive transformation today. Really pleased with how the interior's come out. I mean, I think these seats and the cubby box just look out of this world. Just the detail, the finish is brilliant. Now remember, if you're wearing gloves with Dynamat, you'll be okay. If you forget, you're going to injure yourself. So make sure you do wear gloves when dealing with the Dynamat. Come back on Tuesday, we're going to be fitting the second row seats and we're going to be getting all those installed. I have just looked at the seats and they are trimmed fully on the back, so I'm not sure what our option is on the backs of these seats. Might be something we have to look at and have a chat with Exmoor Trim about, but I'm just super dialed with how this has come through. This steering wheel, for me, is fantastic. It goes so well with these tan seats. I couldn't be more pleased. So yeah, come back on Tuesday, see how we get on with our second row seats. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe and I'll catch you on the next one.